right, guys? We're back, ready to go. Hey, Anthony, you got to explain to me that picture, man. What's going on in that picture? Let me know. You look like you're scared of something you're seeing. All right, so we got 26 participants, well, 25 participants. Is it Friday? Like, people are disappearing already? That's what it is. Sabrina, you got too much light going on. I can barely see you. I'm just messing with you. Let's see. All right. Chat, I see you, Gil. Chat is incognito. Let's see, who else? Heather still has a bunch of connections. It's fine. Mina, your camera sucks. What's going on, man? You're just trying to hide the haircut? That's what it is? I see you got the beard going on. I can see right through it. Don't worry. Cannot hide from me. Luz, I need to see your face. I know you're there. Ritu, point towards your face, please. Brian's in. Meredith is in. Great. Daphne is here. Gary, got you. Carlos, here. Steven, here. Okay. Cool. Jane is in. Jane, are you part of the WhatsApp group? You should be. You got to be part of the WhatsApp group. I want you to, on your, take a note of this. If you go to, I'm actually gonna type it here, because I know you called earlier to get the number, right? School / WhatsApp. So if you type this, what I just put on the Zoom chat, Jane, if you type that onto your phone, it should take you directly to our WhatsApp group. Luz, I did not understand your question. Just in case, I used someone else's head, so you got a different face. That's what it is. Or you're asking why I want to see your face? That's what you're asking? Pretty much the only reason why I want to see your faces, so you guys know, is so I see if you're looking at the screen or if you're trying to do other things. I need to know your attention in this class. So attendance is you're here. Great. But I have a lot of people, and I'll tell you guys right now, since I have you here, before we start, there's a lot of people that decide to play a game which is, hey, I'll just turn it on and then I'll listen later, or I'm good at listening and learning, so I'll pass later. Here's the thing. There's a lot of people that during the class they answer correctly, but then they don't study, and at the end they fail. There's a lot of people that don't pay attention in class at all, and at the end, guess what? They fail. There's a lot of people that think, when I used to be in school, when I used to go to college, I used to cram and everything last minute, and I would pass. Well, college days are over for most of us. So we have something called a life. No offense to whoever just got out of college. But we have something called a life, meaning we have work, we got kids, we got distractions, a bunch of stuff that just disturbs our thought patterns. So it's tough to retain information. And if you're trying to cram, I'll tell you right now, you will fail. Okay? So if you're trying to go through this class and not pay attention, I'll tell you right now, you will fail. All right? Doesn't matter how much experience you have from the past or present or even the experience for the future. All right? Because some people seem to be able to predict the future. You will fail. I'm telling you right now, pay attention. That's the reason why I need to see your face. That's the reason why I'm constantly picking on you guys on things that you were doing. Right? I had people in my previous class watching TV while in the class. So they have the TV on and they have the camera here, and their face is always like this. Now, I know they were not looking at me because every time I call their attention, they will look at the camera. Right? This is different from Heather. Heather had me on the screen, apparently. Different screen and then on her phone. But now she's straight at me. I'm scared. So, but that's what it is, guys. It's just making sure, on my end, it's just making sure I'm giving you the best I can and that you're paying attention. On your end, hey, it's totally up to you. You guys are over 18, you're adults. and whatever you guys want to do to pass or fail, it's totally up to you, right? I'll give you the best I can. Let's see what we got. Daphne is already asking questions. And then Heather says, I thought you picked on us because you liked us. Of course. That's always the way it is. If I didn't like you guys, I wouldn't be doing what I do. I love you guys. And I'll always pick on every single one of you. And I hope you guys do the same. All right, so let's see. Daphne is asking, guys, and I will go over this real quick. If nobody else has any other question, that's what we're going to address right now. Daphne is asking, can you please go over avulsion, accretion, alluvion, reliction? These definitions are a little confusing and they kind of overlap each other. So what you need to know is that avulsion is just a change of current. So if the stream is going this way and all of a sudden it reverses, which barely ever happens, but it could happen, a reverse in the stream, right? That's what avulsion is. It's a reverse in the stream. So it was once going north, now it's coming south. That's all it is. Avulsion is just a reverse in the stream. Next. Accretion. Okay. You missed one. Erosion. So accretion is adding land, gaining land. Erosion is a loss of land. Now, alluvion that you have written here in the chat, alluvion is just a metal that's deposited by the water. So as the water brings stuff into the land, that gradual depositing of alluvion, the metal, makes you gain land. That's how land is sometimes created. These are all natural processes. What you need to really remember is not alluvion. You need to remember that accretion is gaining land, is addition of land, okay? Where erosion is loss of land. So that's what you need to remember about these words. Accretion, addition. Erosion, loss, okay? Avulsion, like I said, is just a change in the way the stream goes. And reliction is draining water. Think of it that way, draining water. So you gain land because there's no water. But if there's no water, then what is there beneath the water? Land. Got it? So reliction is mainly draining water. And who drains the water? Us. It's not nature doing it, it's us. So nature is accretion or erosion. So gaining or losing. We do what's called reliction, which is draining water. Taking water out in order to gain land. Okay? Yeah, so you're saying they're all in the Quizlets. Absolutely, just like they were in the book. They're in the Quizlets, and that's what I'm explaining. It's just that accretion happens because alluvion is deposited gradually over years and years and years, and then you start gradually gaining land. That's what it is. Hey, Jonathan, thanks for the shout out in the WhatsApp group, calling everybody. I appreciate that. Okay. Let's see. Brian, could you lower the camera a little bit for me, please? Just want to make sure I see you. All right, let's see. Nicole, I see you. Okay. Meredith ran away to her car. Don't run away. We still got a few hours to go. Abanub, did you check that the intro that I told you, right? They shout out your name, don't they? There you go. I was right. That's it. You are John Cena's intro. All right, a few people still trying to get in. Is there any other questions, guys, that you have? Post them now, and I'll address it right before we start. All right. Let's see what we got. Rudy, what's up? Got it. Sonia, got it. Connie, Catherine's in. Great. Peter, camera towards you, please. Thank you. This way I can determine a little bit if you're cheating or not. That's all. All right, and I think we got everybody. All right, cool. All right, guys, so let's hit this. If there's no other question, okay, there is a question. And of course, Daphne. There's always somebody that asks a lot of questions, and that's great because some of you want to ask a question, but then you don't. So we usually have one person that asks for everybody. Can we still do the exam even though we're not working with the broker? No, we have to take the exam, right? You have to take the exam before you can work with a broker. The only thing I recommend, guys, is that you interview with different brokers already. Start now. Start calling brokerages. That's what I was saying on day one. So that when you take the exam, right? When you take the exam, you get the certificate. You want to run to the broker and say, hey, remember me? Activate my license with you. That's it. Okay, so before anything, you should already be talking to brokers. You don't want to wait until you pass to talk to brokers, okay? And also make sure you tell them you're thinking about a real estate career. Do not tell them you're already taking the course. Okay, so you don't set yourself up, if that makes sense. Then they're going to be calling you every 2 weeks and say, hey, did you pass? Did you pass? Did you pass? Right? And put that pressure. You don't want pressure. Okay? All right, let's see. All right, Catherine, here's the thing. I will schedule, and your sister is going to be very upset. I just got a message from Catherine saying, hey, could you schedule an interview for me? So that's it. I'm going to do it. You're going to come interview with our broker, and we're going to upset your sister a little bit. All right. So, Connie, it's not stressful at all. Come on. This is easy. Let's work together. Just ask questions, and I'll help you guys. Don't wait until the last minute. That's one of the problems. People wait until the last minute to ask questions. All right, so let's start. Estates and interest. So since you guys don't ask questions, any more questions, I will. Who remembers what this word means? Estate. Let me know in the chat. What does the word estate mean? Okay. Good. Assets, exactly. So, assets. There you go. Assets. So, Stephen, not man-made property, okay? Chad, a sale that I keep my wife away from. Gotta love it. So, it's not man-made property, and it's definitely not a sale that you keep anybody away from. What we're saying here when we say assets is something that you own. So, Stephen, when I mention man-made property, that's real estate and it's human-made, right? So you had land and you had real estate as definitions. So land is how nature presented it to you. So that's how it is. It's raw land with the trees, the bushes, the rocks, all that stuff, raw land, right? The moment you add sewer, water, and all that stuff, all those pipes, electricity, everything you add on to the property, including the house, garage, paving, that's all considered improvements. And because we don't improve someone else's property, right, then we can safely assume that real property ownership is called real estate, meaning we improve our assets. Now, any type of improvement was done for our property. That's why estate means asset, right? I never went to my neighbor and say, hey, I'm going to improve your property. I'm going to spend $200,000 to build you a new house right here, right? Because that's somebody else's asset, somebody else's estate, right? But in my estate, I will. In my real property, I will. You got it? All right. So the difference for the man-made property was mainly to figure out the difference between land and real estate, what the difference would be. All right. But there's a different word here in this chapter. We have estates, as you guys see right here. So assets. And then there's a different word for this chapter, which is interests. Now, what are interests? Interests are claims. Claims or rights that we might have in somebody else's property. See, estate is our ownership, right? But interest is a claim that I might have in your property. Now you're probably thinking, how can I have a claim in somebody else's property? Well, do you guys remember yesterday we talked about the oil company? They have subsurface or mineral rights in someone else's property, correct? Do you remember that? Right? So they have an interest, a beneficial interest in somebody else's property. So let's go over this. We're going to talk about estates in land. And every time you see estates in land, like I said, assets, right? Or ownership in land. Therefore, this equals real estate. Because if it's in land, it's the ownership of real property. You got it? So not all forms of ownership of real estate are equal. See, an owner may or may not be able to pass property on to the heirs. Meaning when you die, your heirs might not get the property. So we're going to define that today as well. Some ownership may exist only as long as the property is used for one specific purpose. That means this is what it is for. If you deviate from what I sold you to use it as, if you deviate from that, then you lose the property. It's yours as long as. Almost like when we do to our kids, right? Here's a phone. If your grades go down, what am I going to do? The phone is yours, but I'm going to take it away. Same thing here, all right? But we'll get there as well. In addition, other persons may possess certain interests, as I said before, and these are legal claims or rights in someone else's real estate. So there's assets, which is the estates, and then there's the interest, which is just a claim or a right in somebody else's property. Next, it says the amount and kind of ownership interest that a person has in real property, it's called estate in land. And I already said that when we wrote this up here. So estate in land. And this could be divided into two major classifications. We have freehold estate, okay? And then we have number 2, less than freehold or leasehold estate. So it's very simple. Freehold estate, you are the owner and nobody can take it away from you, right? Less than freehold or leasehold estates involves tenants. So can somebody take it away from you? Yeah, it's not yours to begin with. You have certain rights, you have certain claims, but they cannot take it away from you. Okay? So freehold estates are estates of indeterminable length. See, a person may own that estate or own that property or that asset, right, for a lifetime or even forever. Now, question, guys, what is the difference between, put that in the chat, what is the difference between lifetime and forever? What is the difference? You owning a property for a lifetime or owning a property forever? What's the difference? Let me know in the chat. Lifetime is until you die. Perfect. So while you're alive, it's yours, right? And forever is infinite. Very good. Okay? So lifetime is while you're alive, the property is yours. Okay. Now you're probably thinking, yeah, when you die, the property is not yours anymore because you're dead, right? But it could last forever in your family. So you go to your heirs. That's what we're saying. So lifetime is defined till you die. So while you're alive until you die, right? But forever, it could be passed along as an estate to your heirs. Okay? And there are three different types of freehold estates recognized in New Jersey. We have fee simple, fee determinable, and life estates, which we're going to cover in this chapter. The first two of these, they are for indefinite periods, so you could own it forever, and inheritable by the heirs, right? The third estate, obviously the life estate, the third estate ends on the death of the person on whose life it is based. I'll explain that better later, okay? And we talked about freehold. We have here now leasehold. What is the difference? A leasehold, if you guys notice what I have highlighted, leasehold already says everything. It involves tenants. So make sure you guys remember this. If we're talking about leasehold, we're talking about tenants. Leasehold, we're talking about tenants. Immediately associate leasehold with tenants. Okay? And if they're for tenants, then obviously they're for a limited amount of time. So for a specific period of time, correct? You own it for a period of time. You own certain interests, certain claims for a period of time. Leaseholds are considered personal property, not real property. That means you do not own the real estate. You own certain rights in the real estate. Okay? So leaseholds, I want you guys to write, because this is going to be later on. Just take a note. We have a whole chapter for this, and that's chapter 12. Okay? A whole chapter for it. Chapter 12. Chapter 12 is landlord and tenants. This is when we're talking about leases. So just make a note, a reference for chapter 12. Gil, periodic tenancy, not tendency, but that was good. Tenancy. So you're a tenant. All right, so in this chapter, we're talking about ownership or direct interest. So we're going to talk about ownership right now. I told you guys there's three different types of estates or freehold estates recognized in New Jersey. The first one is fee simple. And as the name says, it's simple. It's absolute. You own it and nobody can claim it. You own it and you can transfer it to your heirs. You own it and you can do whatever you want with it, right? It's not as long as, no, it's yours. You want to pass it along to your heirs? Pass it along to your heirs. You want to knock down the house and just turn it into a ranch? Turn it into a ranch. You want to turn it into a farm? Turn it into a farm. You want to turn it into a commercial building? Do it. As long as the town allows, you're good. Nobody, no individual can claim any higher rights than the ones you have. So it's called fee simple or fee simple absolute, because you have absolute powers. It's simple. It's yours. Done. Take it. Do whatever you want with it. Okay? Guys good with this one? It's easy, right? Simple? Yeah? All right. Lida, let me see your face. I need to see your face. I know you're there. Thank you. All right, cool. I'm just doing roll call as I go. All right. Meredith went shopping. She's back. All right. The next one. I need you guys to pay attention to these things, guys, because all right, hold on. So, Gil, we'll get there. That's a different chapter. That's chapter 9. Okay. So, police powers has nothing to do with individuals, and that's what I said before. You can do whatever you want. It's your property, limited to whatever the town approves. So, between an individual to another, fee simple, fee determinable, and life estate. These are private arrangements, private agreements from seller to buyer. Okay, so that's the difference. The police powers, which we'll talk about in chapter 9, they're a little different. That's the government powers for building codes, zoning, and all that stuff. So that's a little different. ownership or deed ownership is this: fee simple. Who owns? Who's the actual rightful owner of this property? It's either by fee simple, by fee determinable, or a life estate. These three ways. Okay, got it? Cool. Mina, yeah, your camera's clear now. You wiped it. You're good. All right, Sabrina's back. Great colors now. Perfect. All right. Good. All right, so. All right, if I didn't catch your attention yet, guys, from the previous chapters, from 1, 2, 3, and so on, I'm trying to catch it now because this chapter and next chapter, it's like a landslide. People just like, I don't know, like you do great in all in the majority of the chapters, but there's a few chapters where you get confused. The reason why I called you earlier to pay attention, and I said it's on you if you don't, is exactly because of chapters like this one. Okay, so ask questions. Tell me to stop. As you know, if you want to ask a question, put a question mark so I know you're typing, right? And I'll slow down. But do ask questions, okay? If you don't ask here, at least ask when you're studying. Two things happen there. One, it shows me that you're studying. Two, shows me you have interest. If you don't, then at the end it's going to be very difficult. And I will create a quick video. If it's not in a live class, I'll create a quick video explaining again in detail certain of these certain terms and give you examples and all that, okay? So, fee determinable. When we talk about fee determinable, first of all, fee, I forgot to mention that, fee means ownership. Like when we pay a fee, we now own whatever we paid, right? It's fee ownership. It's a very old colloquial term which really means ownership, but what I want you to associate is fee, I paid. I paid is mine. Got it? Associate it that way. Fee, I paid. Since I paid, it's now mine. Simple. Now, what we're saying here is that your fee, whatever you paid, came with a condition. So here I want you to write conditional or contingent. Meaning your ownership, your fee, your ownership is contingent or conditional, meaning you're not 100% owner. Okay? You are, but you're not. What does that mean? You have full rights, but there's a condition to your ownership. Here's the example. John Smith conveys or transfers 1,000 acres to the Jones Foundation, and look what it says. As long as it's maintained as wildlife. So John Smith says, hey, Jones Foundation, I have a piece of land. I'll give it to you, or I'll sell it to you, whatever. But the only thing you must do with it is maintain it as wildlife. Okay, that's what it is. It's for you to preserve wildlife. You cannot change or alter the current status of this land. That's what we're saying. But as I usually say in this chapter, do we ever listen when somebody gives us like an ultimatum, right? It's like it's even worse. It's like, especially my 2-year-old, he say don't touch, he goes like, I said don't touch, I'm still touching. I know I'm gonna get hit. I know there's gonna be trouble. I know you're gonna take something away. Oh, I touched, right? Don't kids do this? Guess what? Adults do it all the time. Adults do it all the time. I just said right now, pay attention, and some of you are way off, right? You contradict the whole thing. So guess what the Jones Foundation did? 5 years later, knowing that they can't, they built a corporate headquarters, a building. Now, my question is a building wildlife? No, a building is definitely not wildlife, okay? As I usually say, it's going to have a bunch of animals, right, in the building, but we're not wild animals, I think. So, not constituted as wildlife. Heather, hold on to that thought, okay? Don't type anything, please. So, I see the smirks, and Shady too. It's like, I get the smirks, I already know something is going through their mind. Chad's not even saying anything anymore after his last comment. It's like, I know, I'm going to get in trouble. All right. So what happens? I gave a cell phone to my son, my 13-year-old. Here's a cell phone. That's pretty much what I'm saying here. As long as your grades stay where they are right now. You deserve the cell phone, right? But your grades have to stay. If the grades go down, meaning if you breach our original agreement, guys, what happens to the cell phone? I get the cell phone. Now, granted, my son, Pedro, the phone is yours. It is yours. It's your name, it's your line, it's your everything. But if you don't keep your grades, if you change this into a corporate headquarters, this piece of land, then title or ownership comes back to me. It's as simple as that, right? It's yours as long as we keep the original arrangement. You are the owner. But there's a condition, a determination of your ownership, which can terminate on the occurrence or non-occurrence of a specified event. In my son's case, cell phone, grades, right? In this case, land, wildlife. And they change that status, boom. It reverts back to John Smith or Smith's heirs, okay? Now, this future interest, future interest is called possibility of reverter. Do you guys remember the difference between estate and interest? Do you guys know what the difference is? Let me know in the chat. What's the difference between estate and interest? See, in this case, he has a fee determinable, so he has a freehold estate, right? Jones Foundation got a freehold estate. Correct. So assets and claims, that's the difference. So what we're saying is the Jones Foundation, that's great, guys. The Jones Foundation has the property as an asset. They're the owners of the property, right? But John Smith kept a right or a claim to the property, a future interest, a future claim to the property. You guys understand? The Jones Foundation is responsible for taxes, is responsible for maintenance, is responsible for all expenses that are related to the property, but they're also entitled to all the income. It's their property. Okay? Like I said before, my son has a cell phone. It's his cell phone. He has to take care of it. He has to maintain it, not me. If he breaks it, it's his fault, right? So he has to fix it, not me, right? The condition is grades go down. What do I want? I want the phone back. Here is the same scenario. You guys got it? Any questions? Let me know. All right, Gary's typing something. What's up with the do-rag today? Oh, okay, all right. Let's see what question comes up. If anybody else putting a question, put a question mark. Daphne's not putting a question because she's eating right now, so we're good. She's entertained. Nicole, is that a question mark on top of your head, or is it just okay? Okay, cool. Just want to make sure. All right, let's see. So, if someone wasn't taking care of the property, wow, Telnet is an old system. Can Telnet take the land back? So can they take the land back? Any IT guys that knows what Telnet is? No? Okay, all right. Oh, chat, there you go. All right, so can they take it back? If they don't take care, that's a little different. No, it's your property. You're responsible for maintaining. If you don't, it's on you. It will be a city violation. Has nothing to do with me. The condition that we put in this sale, right? If the condition was as long as you maintain it in good condition, whatever, then yes. But the condition was maintain it as wildlife. That means you cannot change the status of the lands to something other than wildlife preservation. Okay? So you are responsible for maintaining according to city codes. So don't come after me, city of Newark, for instance. Don't come after me because Gary's not taking care of it. Gary's the owner of record. Go after Gary. You got it? right? But if Gary changes the status, then you know what, Gary? I step in. The property is now mine again. That's what it is. Because the agreement was you buy it as long as you keep it in a certain status. Whether it's wildlife or if I say the house is green, it has to stay green, right? I'll give you another scenario. Historic property. Historic property or landmark, by federal definition, by state definition, landmarks or historic properties must be preserved as they were 100 years ago. So can you change the color? Can you change the structure on the exterior? No, it still has to look as it looked years ago. The moment you do, you'll be fined and you can lose the title to the property. These are conditions that are put on your ownership. Do you understand? All right? So, what if, guys, what if, let's say, let's put it like this. So Gary, I sold to you, right? I'm the seller, you're the buyer. Now, in our arrangement, Gary, I said, the property is yours as long as you keep it as wildlife. If you change the status of this property, if you alter it into a commercial property or residential property or something other than wildlife, then the property goes to Shady. You see what I did right here? If you screw up, that's pretty much what I'm saying. If you screw up, it's the worst thing I can do to my kids. If you screw up, I'll give it to your sister. That's what I tell my son. That's why he always takes care of his things. Listen, that phone you got, if your grades go down, I'm going to give that phone to your sister. Like, no, not to the sister. You can give it to the dog, but not to the sister. Like, there's always that competition, right? So, Gary, here's the thing. You turn it into an office building, but my condition was to keep it as wildlife. Now, Shady, it's a third party, right? He's a third party. He's not the seller. He's not the buyer. Does that make sense? He's not part of our agreement between me and you. He's a third party. The third party could be anyone. It could be Shady. It could be another corporation. It could be whoever you want. As long as it's a third party, not related to the seller, not related to the buyer. And when I say related, meaning Shady is not a seller, Shady is not the buyer. That's the type of relationship I'm saying, okay? If he's not related to the original transaction between me and you, Gary, right, then Shady is called a remainderman. The remainderman is who remains after you screw up, let's say, okay? So, guys, in this case, when the Jones Foundation violated the terms of the contract by putting the corporate headquarters, the building there, right? Then what we said here is that Bill Brown, a third party, not the seller, not the buyer, Bill Brown collects the rights to the property. He becomes the owner of the property. Bill Brown is now called the remainderman. If it said, instead of Jones Foundation, because you screwed up Jones Foundation, right, it goes to Red Cross Foundation, then Red Cross would be the remainderman, right? If we said it goes to Jennifer Lopez, then Jennifer Lopez is the remainderman. There's no man, woman, or entity here. Remainderman is the term, period. So in case they trick you in the state exam, remainderman is the term. Okay? So whoever remains from the transaction. All right. Daphne put the fork down. She's typing. Let's see. We got a question. Peter, great. Who decides the remainderman? The seller. Right? Because I'm the one with the power to say, hey, keep it in these conditions. Keep it as wildlife. I'm the one with that power. And I'm telling you, Peter, if you screw up, I'm going to give it to this person. Now, I don't have to do anything myself because the deed becomes the contract. The deed determines who gets it automatically. Okay? Got it, Peter? Let's see. When it states Bill Brown or his heirs, the heirs are Bill Brown's or Smith's. Okay, so if Bill Brown is not alive at the time, then it goes to Bill Brown's heirs. That's what it says. So here, look, right here, it said it reverts to me or to my heirs. Right? Let's say I'm the seller, Smith, right here. reverts to me or my heirs. But if I appointed somebody, I could have appointed to Bill Brown or his heirs. You got it? Either way, the remainderman, Shady in my scenario, Shady is the one that gets it regardless. Okay? It doesn't go to Gary's heirs. It doesn't go to my heirs. It goes to Bill Brown, in this case, Shady Brown, or his heirs. Okay? Any other questions? All right, Vanessa and Peter, go. All right, somebody just sent a voice message in the school chat, but can't hear voice messages right now. Vanessa, what happens with the first payment? What payment? You bought it for me. You paid me. I sold it to you, Vanessa. You paid me. So what do you mean? What happens to the first payment? What happens to the whole payment? You lose the house. You lose the land. Right? Simple. Gone. Yeah, like magically gone. It's simple. It's called punishment. I told you it was for this reason. And you screwed up. So no, I don't have to return anything. It's like, look, if you're a tenant, you know very well we give a security deposit, right? If you screw up, right, it's your fault, not mine. So do I need to give you the deposit back? You see what I'm saying? If you damage the property, if you altered the property, sorry, bye-bye deposit. No refunds, okay? Yeah, Melly, yeah, you lose the money. All right, Peter. So what happens to the property after the violation? Assuming that an apartment building was built, do they take it down? See, now it depends. Normally, this type of transaction comes with a condition, right? So the condition is you keep it as wildlife. If it goes to Bill Brown, then most likely you're going to get sued to take down the property and restore it to the original condition. So not only do you lose the property, right? You also have to restore it to the original condition. There'll be a lawsuit. The title to the property you lose immediately. So Shady gets it immediately. Sorry, Gary. That's it. But Gary, you could also get sued, right, to restore the property back to its original condition. And Shady might be required to maintain the property in original condition as stated. So Shady's still going to get it, but for wildlife purposes. Okay? He cannot keep it now as a building, right? Because then it will make no sense. Why did I take it from Gary and give to Shady if he can proceed with as a building? It wouldn't make any sense to that. All right? You guys good? Great. So next thing we got, it's a triple loss, yeah. Next thing we got is okay. Sorry, I'm just asking somebody to listen to the audio and let me know. All right, so the next thing we got is life estate. So, guys, estate means assets. We got this by now, right? Means ownership. So if it says life estate, that means you own it as long as you're alive. So it's limited to somebody's life. Got it? So it's still a fee determinable. It's still contingent. It's still conditional, right? It's still conditional, but the condition is specific. It's somebody's life. You got it? Yes? Okay, great. You think it's a butt dial? Okay. These butts nowadays. All right. So it's limited to a life estate, and the owner of a normal life estate does not have the right to, right on top, pass ownership to heirs. If it's a life estate, your heirs will never get the property. So let's go back to Gary. Gary, before I sold the property to you, so I just want to use the same people as for the example, right? Gary, I sold the property to you before as long as you kept it as wildlife, right? That was a condition. Now I'm going to sell the property to you for as long as you're alive. It's still a condition that as long as you're alive, the property is yours. You can do whatever you want with it. Same as before. You're entitled to all the income that comes from it, but you also have to maintain it, pay taxes and all that. It's yours. The deed and the title is in your name. But when you die, all right, because guys, it will happen, we just don't know when. When you die, then it comes back to me. That's what it is. You got it? Now, can I name Shady as the person to receive the property if Gary dies? Absolutely. It's the same thing. He's a remainderman now. You got it? So both in fee determinable and life estate, I'm going to show you guys in a second, both in fee determinable and life estate, right, there's a possibility of a remainderman. In both of these, somebody owns the property and can do whatever they want with certain restrictions. In the previous case, keep the property as wildlife. In this case, in life estate, keep yourself alive. That's all it is. Right? Don't die. Because if you don't die, the property is yours. If you die, you lose it. Your heirs do not get it. This is very, very important. It does not go to your heirs because it ends on the death of the owner. It's yours as long as you're alive. Daphne, can the fee determinable be inheritable? Yep. All right, I got a message from YouTube Live. I got Big Mike saying, hello. Big Mike, identify yourself. Watch, be a little guy. You guys remember Robin Hood? Right? Had the little John. It was actually a big guy. No? Does anybody still talk about Robin Hood besides the app, the trading app? No? I'm feeling old now. All right, Shady, let's see what we got. Right here. Ha, Sarah. I don't know. Oh, Gil, tell me you didn't buy Dogecoin. It's not going to take you anywhere, man. Bad investment right there. I'll tell you right now. Anyway, right here, not the I am old. Let's go up to right here. So you could change it into something other than wildlife if it's a life estate. Well, Shady, this is a totally different arrangement, right? See, when it was the fee determinable and the determination was keep it as wildlife, then guess what? You keep it as wildlife. You cannot change that. Can you take advantage of wildlife and make money? Yeah. Turn it into a non-profit and you'll make a lot of money from the government and us supporting your Rolls Royce and your new airplane. I'm sorry. Sorry, wrong class. Let's go to, where were we? Life estate. So under life estate, we're just saying that instead of keeping it as wildlife, is keeping you alive. As long as you're alive, that's the only thing. But you can still do whatever you want with the property other than dying, because when you die, you're done. It comes back to me. All right? So again, it's yours with a condition. Simple. All right, let's see what we got here. Now we went to Dogecoin. All right. Jonathan, really? Guys, Dogecoin is not the next, at least that's what I feel in a lot of reports that I've been looking at. It's not going to be the next Bitcoin. Not even close. There's too many out there. It's not going to be enough to have that big of a gain. So don't hold on to it forever, I think. Anyway, I'm not much of a stock market guy, and I'm not much of a crypto lately. So now that's different. All right, moving forward. Some good ones is always Bitcoin, Ethereum. They're always good. XRP is not bad, but Dogecoin, I don't think it will be like the big. No. All right. Next, let's move on to where we are, which is real estate, which I love because it's stable. real estate, it's predictable. It's a lot easier to make money, all right? Without the guesswork, without the falling the next day. And no, you can see when it's going to fall, okay? Daphne. I'm just not a big stock market player. That's what I'm saying. I cannot have a heart attack like that. The other day I did, and I'm like, nope. I said it was not for me. I'm not going to do this anymore. So, Daphne, what is the difference between possibility of reverter and reversionary? So we're getting there because we got back, right? So we're getting there. See, I told you there was a fee determinable. Is when there's a determination to your ownership, and then I said life estate is exactly the same. It's just that a condition or the event is somebody's life or death, right? So reversionary interest is the same thing as a possibility of reverter. All we're saying is that I sold to Gary as long as he's alive, but I have an interest, a future interest, which is reversionary interest, reverting to me. You see, in a fee determinable, if the property never changes the status, I have a possibility of future reversion, so future interest, right? In a life estate, it's almost guaranteed that I'll get the property back, right? Because eventually, sorry Gary, but eventually Gary will not be with us. So it's almost guaranteed at any time the property will come back to me or to my heirs, right? Does that make sense? Now, when I said earlier, I'm going to skip that one for now. What I said earlier to both of them is the holder of a life estate, just like a fee determinable, has true ownership of real property. So you are the owner. Deed and title is yours. Got it? But you cannot, however, waste the property. So that means you cannot perform any acts that would permanently damage the property, right? You're entitled to all the income, as I said before, and profits arising from it, and you're responsible for maintaining, paying taxes, and so on. What can you do with the property? Well, you can do the same thing you've done with all your properties. You can sell it, you can lease it, you can mortgage, you can give it away, right? The thing is, in a life estate, it always ends on the death of the person against whose life it is measured. So if I said, Gary, it's yours as long as you're alive, then when you die, let's say you sold it to Vanessa. All right? You sold it to Vanessa, then when you die, Vanessa loses the property because she bought it knowing, it's a clause in the deed, in the document that you sign. She bought it knowing that eventually, upon your death, Gary, eventually she would lose the property back to me, that I have a reversionary interest. You got it? Or to Shady if he was the remainderman. You guys got it? Okay? So, very simple. Gil, what would be the advantage of a life estate? It's kind of like a less than freehold estate because you don't technically own it. No, actually, it's a freehold estate. You own it. Remember, you own it. It is yours. Nobody can take it away from you unless you die. It's the only thing. It doesn't pass on to your heirs, right? So there's no real difference from this one to the fee determinable to the fee simple. It's ownership. Now, what's the benefit of life estate? It's more of a benefit to the seller than it is to the buyer. The buyers probably they're saving a few bucks by in this type of arrangement because obviously if you know you're going to lose it at one point, would you pay full price for it? No. So it's a type of arrangement where, hey, I'm going to buy it. Sorry, guys. Latecomers, always. All right, so what I was saying is you still have the ownership, you just might buy it cheaper. That's what I was saying. For the seller, it's called estate preservation. And to answer if, Vanessa, if this is common, it's not common among us, no. If there's any ultra millionaire right now here in this Zoom chat, then you'll know what I'm talking about. If you're not an ultra millionaire right now, or a gazillionaire, right, then you don't know what we're talking about. Because estate preservation, how do you think like the most powerful families out there have so much money and have so many properties? Think about it. I sell to you, you maintain it, you're responsible for taxes. I made money in the process because I sold it, so you paid me money, right? But you maintain it, right? So the value goes up. You pay taxes, so I don't have to worry about it. You keep the insurance, so I don't have to worry about it. And when you die, guess what? It's mine again. So it's like renting it to you without none of the headaches. It's yours. Go ahead. You're the owner. So is it common? Yes. It's called estate preservation. It's called estate planning. It's getting ready for the future. It might not be mine, but my kids will definitely get it, right? Because eventually a person I sold to will die. Now, hopefully, we'll die before my kids do. If not, then the grandkids get it. But it stays in the family. And that's why some families have trillions of dollars in assets, right? Some families, not individuals. It's families, right? Did you guys understand that? It's a very smart way to do it. You sell for a little bit less, everybody's happy, and years later, it's mine again. Now, not all insurance companies, so to answer the possible question coming through, this is not a typical arrangement. So attorneys prepare these contracts, not us. And most likely, mortgage company and title company will require life insurance. Why? Because you own it as long as you're alive, right? If there's a mortgage on it, when you die, what happens? They cannot foreclose because title comes back to me. It's my property. But can they foreclose? They still can't foreclose. So all the parties here are actually requesting life insurance to cover any debts that stay behind. All right, so it becomes a trickier type of scenario. Is it possible? Yes. Will everybody benefit? Yes. The thing is, it's a gamble just like everything else. How long are you going to live? You see what I'm saying? You're buying, so to address Peter, you're buying cheaper, but you're expecting to live forever on a property you bought cheaper. You got it? You're expecting to have that income for a very long time on a property that you bought cheaper. You got it? But how long are you going to live? We don't know. Okay? David Meadows says, so the buyers always know what they're getting themselves into. Well, I'll put it this way. Everybody knows exactly what they're getting themselves into. If you don't, it's because you ignored the paperwork, right? So either you ignored, your attorney ignored, the title company ignored, the mortgage company ignored, or the realtor ignored. There's 5 parties to a transaction that might have ignored paperwork. You see what I'm saying? Somebody did not read. If you don't know what's happening in this transaction, then somebody, one of these 5 parties, did not read the documentation, which happens a lot, unfortunately. Right? You as a buyer, because you're tired of a bunch of signatures and you're tired of a bunch of paperwork, and you're just like, okay, let's get it over it. I just want the keys and move in. It's a great deal. Let me get the keys and move in. Right? Attorneys, because they rely on the title companies nowadays, they don't even check anything. They're like, oh yeah, title company said okay, we move forward. Title companies, because they were just providing info. And if you're okay with that info, they insure with the exception, with that exception. They will insure the title with that exception that it will revert to the previous owner. If nobody pays attention and says, hey, by the way, red flag, there's these things going on here. If nobody pays attention, then Peter, you just bought, and David, you guys just bought a property that you're going to lose. Well, your heirs are going to lose. You don't, because you'll die, but your heirs will lose. Does that make sense? All right, guys? So it's a very good strategy, let's put it like that, for the sellers. All right, the next thing we have, guys, is called Dower and Curtesy. All right, hold on, Peter. So a salesperson cannot do this type of transaction? Yeah, we can. Look, guys, we can do all types of transactions. What I said was contract is prepared by an attorney. We're entitled to prepare contracts on 1 to 4 family in New Jersey. 1 to 4 family. In other states, you might be the one doing the contract. But in state of New Jersey, that's what the course is that you're taking right now. In the state of New Jersey, we prepare contracts for residential only and simple sales. This is not a simple sale because it has a condition. This type of condition needs to be reviewed by attorneys. So attorneys prepare these type of contracts, okay? As soon as it gets complicated, the transaction, attorneys handle it. That's what it is. We still get the commission, but attorneys handle it, okay? All right, and you just wrote last question. I want you to ask more questions. Don't put it as a last question, okay, Peter? But since you wrote last question, guys, let's take note. If he asks another question, we kick him out. Deal? Chad says yes. All right. So Dower and Curtesy. He just corrected it for this section. Dower and Curtesy. Has anybody ever heard of the words Dower and Curtesy and their meaning? Dower and Curtesy. Let me know what you think it is. Dower and Curtesy. Put it in the chat. Dower and Curtesy. Without reading, of course, if anybody's reading or searching or Googling. Right? Where's Crystal? Is she Googling already? Dour is a right because you see right here on the screen. Oh, look who budged in. What's up, Kelly? All right, you missed the class. That's what it is. I just got somebody jumping into the cameras. I don't know. Seriously. All right, Curtesy. Wife's right. Oh, Catherine. So yeah, Kelly's the one that gave you the answer? There you go. Anyway. All right, let me get back to this. Hey, David, I cannot see you. Put the camera on, please. Okay, there you go. All right, so let's go back to this. Stephen, need to see you as well. So here it is. Dower and Curtesy. This is an ancient right. Dower, it's an ancient right, and Curtesy, an ancient right, where your significant other, when he or she dies, you acquire their half. So technically, back in the day, so before May 28, 1980, back in the day, right? Before May 28, 1980, we owned property 50-50. It didn't matter if I owned it or my spouse owned it. It belonged to both, 50-50, right? So when I kill my wife, I get her 50. If she kills me first, she gets my 50. That's as simple as that. But only for property acquired before May 28, 1980, okay? Only for property acquired before May 28, 1980. Now, what happened on May 28, 1980? New Jersey abolished the creation of any new Dower or Curtesy rights. So now what we have, as of May 28, 1980, we have the right of joint possession of the property that is our main marital residence. So the property where we live, husband and wife, where we live, okay? Or spouse and spouse as it is now. So, okay, sorry. All right. So what we're saying is, before May 28, 1980, it was 50-50. You died, I get your 50, so I'm 100% owner. I die, you get my 50, so now you're 100% owner. All right? Now, to avoid these types of homicides, they decided to say, no, you shall not kill your spouse. And they said, we abolish the rights of Dower and Curtesy. So now, what is yours, what is mine, except our main marital residence. If it's the house where we live, it does not matter if you're the owner or if I'm the owner, it still belongs to both. Okay? You got it, guys? Give me a thumbs up if you're good. Great. Kelly, you don't qualify anymore for the thumbs up. You got your license. All right. Now, why do we need to know this stuff? So before Daphne asks, why do we need to know this stuff? Very simple. Because you need to know who needs to sign or not the paperwork. You need to know who's entitled to sell and who's entitled to buy. That's why you should always ask if they're married. All right? So look right here. Where both husband and wife are listed as the owners, then both must, of course, sign any relevant documents. If they're both on the title, on the deed, they both have to sign as grantors, as selling the property. Now, in many cases, a non-owning spouse must agree to release claims of dower, courtesy dower, or possession by signing the listing contract, sales contract, or deed. Now, let's get there. Hold on. So let's pay attention to these. Look at these bullet points. I have a bunch of green highlight here, so it's very, very important you understand. Right here, number 1. For real estate owned during their marriage, so not something I bought before we got married, it's while we're married. Real estate owned during their marriage before May 28, 1980. So if it's property we purchased while married, okay, we purchased before May 28, 1980, then we have the rights of Dower and Curtesy, okay? That means that both of us must sign the documents no matter which one is the owner. So before May 28, 1980, both of us must sign. Got it? Doesn't matter who the owner is. This one is the most important one. If it's the family home, look right here. If it's the family home that's being sold, that means where my wife and I reside, where we sleep, where we eat, where we have our children, where we're together, right? If it's our marital residence, our family home that's being sold, then all documents must be signed by both spouses, okay? So if it's the family home, then it must be signed by both spouses, no matter what. So even if only one is listed as the owner, no matter what, both must sign. If it's the family home, remember this, if it's the family home, if it's the marital residence, it doesn't matter if it's before May 28, 1980 or after May 28, 1980, it belongs to both if it's a family home, okay? It does not matter if it's before or after. Now, for all real estate acquired after May 28, 1980, so after May 28, 1980, that is not the family home, okay? Then it may be sold by the owner only without the signature of a spouse. So guys, remember this. Before May 28, 1980, both must sign if the property was acquired while married. Okay? After May 28, 1980, then only the one that owns the property, so whoever's on the deed, the one that owns the property, must sign. The other spouse does not have to sign. Unless, of course, it's the family home, the marital residence. Okay? Let me know if you have questions. I'll give you some time to digest this one. Can I repeat the first bullet? We didn't kill anybody. So the first bullet point. All I said is in the first bullet point is that if it was acquired by a married couple before May 28, 1980, then both must sign. That's all. Okay? And then down here, if it's after, then only one must sign. With the exception of family home, which doesn't matter if it's before or after May 28, you always have to sign. Okay? What if one dies? See, here, if one of the owner dies, then it belongs to the other immediately. That's it. And here, it depends. It goes to the heirs, whoever you determine to be an heir. All right, somebody's smiling too much at the camera. Kelly, are you typing something? Is that what it is? Okay. All right, so any other questions, or are we good? Give me a thumbs up if you're good, if I can move forward. Great, cool. Look what it says here. Regardless of who can sign or not, the seller should always consult an attorney before signing any documents without the spouse. That's a given, right? If you don't want a divorce, then consult before you do something like that. All right, the next thing we got is encumbrances. Sorry. The next thing we got is encumbrances. Now, encumbrance equals cloud. The word encumbrance equals cloud. What is a cloud? So let's think about it this way. I always give this example like cartoons, right? I always go back to cartoons. There's when you're looking at cartoons, sometimes there's everything is sunny around, and there's one character, right? There's one character that has a cloud over him or her, right? And that cloud is thundering, it's raining, and that cartoon is usually like no energy, down, right? Have you guys ever watched cartoons that have this type of scenario, right? So what is happening here? Everybody else, where it's sunny, right? They don't have the cloud over them. They're full of energy. They're happy. They're ready to go. But the one that has a cloud is being held back, right? It has no energy, no motivation, right? Now we use it for depression commercials, right? And then they give you the little pill, and there goes the cloud. Everything is sunny, and then you might die, but at least it's sunny, no longer cloudy, right? So Daphne says that's me. Terrible. All right, so here we go. An encumbrance is a claim, lien, charge, or liability that's attached to and binding on real property. And what it does is that it affects or limits the use, value, or title. So when we hear the word clouded title, that means there's an encumbrance. There's something that limits, right? Just like the character that's like slouching, no energy, right? They're limited, right? There's an encumbrance, a cloud on the title that limits the value, limits the use of the property. Okay? I was actually looking at this article the other day. There's this person that bought a patch of land for $9,000, right? And you're probably thinking, wow, that's cheap, right? No, but it was really a patch of land. There's two properties that shared a patch of land. He thought he was getting the property at an auction. He got a small piece of land. So this is the driveway. There's two houses here, right? In the garage. And he got a little patch of land right here for $9K. He has no right to property A or property B. He bought a patch of land. Crazy, right? There's this couple in San Francisco that bought a street. They bought a street because somebody did not, and now all the properties around have an encumbrance, which is their street. It's owned by somebody else, and they can charge taxes. They can charge like the easy pass. They can charge you to go through and maintain it, right? These are all encumbrances, things that affect your property, okay? Encumbrances, remember, clouds or things that affect the property. David Meadows is asking, where do you hear about this stuff? So you just subscribe to articles. I mean, the one about San Francisco, about somebody buying a street in San Francisco, was actually through Bigger Pockets, I think it was. So biggerpockets.com, the blog said, that was one of the things that came in my email. The one about a patch of land, I think it was 2 or 3 days ago. I saw that, or was it yesterday? I don't even know anymore. But it was in one of my subscriptions that I have, investor subscriptions. So I just got that notification saying, hey, beware of what you're buying at auction. This guy got stuck with a patch of land for $9,000. So that was a waste of money. All right. What can he do with that patch? Asks Shady. What can he do? Absolutely nothing. He can maintain it. Actually, he has to maintain it for the neighbors. Or he can sell it to the neighbors. The thing is that nobody's going to pay $9,000 for a little tiny strip of land. Okay? Heather goes, can I have that person's number? I have some patches of land to sell. Yeah. That'll be great, right? Talia, why didn't he know that was a patch? Good question. I think, look, I have a friend of mine that I just found out today. He's in North Carolina because he bought something at auction for $7,000. All right? I think people become blind to the lower prices and just jump at it thinking it's a great deal, and they don't do the full research. Because, like, $9,000, worst case scenario, I spend $200 building something on it, and I make $100,000 when I sell. Right? I think that's the mentality. And you guys forget to do the actual due diligence, the actual research of what you're buying and what comes with it, right? So the guy that I'm telling you that went to North Carolina, he bought a piece of land for $7,000. He got there, the whole house is destroyed. He needs to put actually $200,000 into it. You see what I'm saying? Or maybe 100-something thousand to it. You guys understand? So people jump at, just like Heather just wrote, impulsive, right? And afraid to lose the deal, right? You need to do due diligence. You need to research. It makes no sense. Why would he buy it? Daphne's asking, how is a patch of land an encumbrance? We're going to get to that right now, guys. Actually answering Daphne's first question and the second question. Wouldn't the patch of land belong to the neighboring house? We're going to get there right now. Ready? There's two different types of encumbrances. There are two different types of clouds on a property. They are liens, and the other ones are physical or usage encumbrance. All right? So liens, guys, we're going to start with the very first one. Liens, I want you to remember that liens equal money. A lien equals money. All right, Kelly's making a lot of money, so she's just yelling, money, money, money. All right. Can you let your sister study, please? Oh, she wants an interview with us, by the way. Did she tell you? Tell her to show you the message she sent. All right, anyway. We'll talk tomorrow. All right, anyway. Liens equals money. So what I'm trying to say is that every time you see the word lien, remember, we're talking about encumbrances. Encumbrances are claims. So every time you see the word lien, we're looking at some type of financial claim. So in the state exam, when you look at the answers, look for money, something that relates to money. Sometimes the question, which one of these is not a lien, right? Or all these are liens except. So you're going to look for the one that doesn't relate to money. You got it? Or all of these are types of encumbrances, only one is a lien. Which one is it? Right? And you're going to go for the one that actually talks about financial claims. So what type of financial claims can we have, right? Now, a financial claim means that you provided your property as security for a debt. Your property is the collateral. Your property is the security for a debt or an obligation of the property owner. Okay? You need to pay. Therefore, I put a lien against your property until you pay, until the balance is zero. You guys got it? So a lien is something attached to your property until the balance is zero. If you don't pay the lien, then the lien holder, also called creditor, the person that, or the entity that gave you the money, right, has the right to have it paid out of the property, right, And how do we have it paid out of the property? Through a court sale. It's called foreclosure. Okay? So foreclosure, the term foreclosure is when the bank or the creditor is enforcing their rights, saying, hey, they owe me money. I'm not going to wait any longer. Your Honor, please allow this property to be sold at auction so I can recover my money. You guys got it? So that's what it is. A lien is against the property. If you don't pay, what do they get? The property. But do they want the property? No, they want money. That's why they sell it at auction in order to recover their money. You guys got it? Thumbs up? Okay, no question coming through. Oh, actually, there is a question. Hold on. What if the house is worth $300, you owe $150 on your lien? We're going to talk about that later. Okay, so different section. We're going to talk about that in mortgages. Heather is saying it's one of the things they look for in the title search. Absolutely. They look for other liens on the property. Absolutely. All right. There's different types of liens. Liens could be voluntary or involuntary. Liens could also be classified as general or specific liens. Now, voluntary, guys, let me know in the chat, what does the term voluntary mean? I'm not talking about real estate right now. I'm just talking about the word voluntary. If you do something voluntarily, what does it mean? Let me know. Your choice. You allow it. Very good. And on your own accord, absolutely. You asked for it. You consented to it. You allowed it. Absolutely. So voluntary, that means you want to, right? Now let's bring this to real estate. Can you guys give me examples of voluntary liens? Go ahead. All right. Talia has her son there, and I must sound like either Diego or, right? Can you give me examples of, no? All right. So Talia has a kid, and Catherine has an adult. There you go. Not anymore. Throwing the tongue out, you're a kid too. Good. Mortgage. Gil, mechanics liens are not voluntary liens. We'll talk about that in a second. Home remodeling loan. That's a mortgage. Car. Okay. Yes. Let's see. Consent to the bank to reseal the house. Reseal? Oh, resell. Why would you consent to the bank to resell the house? All right. Remember, a lien is something against the house. If it was sold, then it's no longer your house. Okay? Lien is against the house. I'm the coach. Thank you. All right. So, voluntary lien, guys. Voluntary lien. Janice, correct. Mortgage. Voluntary liens. You guys asked for it. So who asked for the mortgage? You did. No bank came to you and say, hey, you want to buy? Here's money. Right? Nobody said, here's the mortgage. You asked for it, right? Now, what about involuntary? Involuntary means you're being forced, correct? You're being forced into something. Can you give me examples of involuntary liens? I seriously think that I'm in one of those kids shows. Can you do it at home too? All right, involuntary liens. Absolutely. Property taxes, mechanics or home improvements. So Gil, when we talk about construction loans, that's what it was. Remember, construction loans or liens is because you did not pay. We're going to talk about that in a second. All right? But stuff that you have right there, stuff that you have and don't pay, all right, because mortgage is voluntarily. If you don't pay, then the action becomes an involuntary action. Okay? So home improvements, unpaid. All right, let's go to unpaid home improvements. The construction. So let me just address what I just said regarding Heather's comment and bring that to construction. See, a mortgage is something you ask for right away to be a lien. Construction is something you ask for, but then you did not pay. All right, it was not a lien until they took you to court. You got it? So then it becomes an involuntary lien at that moment. So construction itself, you asked for it, but it's not a lien yet. right? Because you intend to pay without being attached to the property. If you don't pay, they file a lawsuit. That lawsuit becomes a lien. So that becomes now an involuntary lien. Okay? Shady, really? I'm with Crystal on this one. Bail? Bail is not a lien against the property. Well, actually, it could become eventually. Yep. Against any property you have. Yep. All right. So that brings us then, Shady. Let's hold on to that for a second, okay? It brings us to general and specific, general liens and specific liens, okay? So there's two categories of liens. So besides the voluntary and involuntary, now you have general or specific. General liens affect everything you own. So property A, property B, your checking account, your savings account, your car, your taxes, your like everything. It's general, attaches to everything you have. A specific lien is only against one thing. For instance, if you have a car, you have a car lien, right? If it's financed, you have a car lien. And if you don't pay, they can take the car. If you have a house and a mortgage, there's a mortgage lien. If you don't pay, they can only take the mortgage. Do you guys understand? Taxes, there are specific liens against the property. If you don't pay, they can only take that property. So let's say on the street you own property A, property B, and property C. All of these have taxes because taxes is municipal and they're against the property. They don't need to be recorded at all. They're just there, right? So let's say you don't pay your taxes on property A. If you don't pay your taxes on property A, can they come after property B and C? No, because taxes are specific to property A. Mortgage is specific to property B, to property A. Then there's taxes that are specific to property B, and there's mortgage that's specific to property B. So what I'm trying to say here is, if you don't pay taxes on property A, they can only come after property A. If you don't pay taxes on property B, they can only come after on property B. Because these are called specific liens. They're against one property only. Against one property only. Okay? You guys got it? A general lien will be, for instance, let me just erase this out of here. A general lien, let's go here, will be child support, for instance, IRS, judgments. So let's say medical, for instance, right? These are general liens, right? And they attach to property A, they attach to property B, they attach to property C, they attach to your nice little, look at my 4-year-old drawing, car, right? They attach to your checking, to your savings, to your salary, so your income, right? To your passport, depending on the type of lien, right? And even to your taxes. So what we're trying to say here is very simple. A specific lien is against, so right here, specific lien is against that one property only. Okay? But a general lien affects everything you own. So when you see the word specific, we're looking at what's attached to one property only. Specific liens. Questions? Let me know in the chat if you got questions. Gil, I guess I just answered that one for you. Let's see. All right, David, I don't see you. Natalie, I don't see you. Steven, you're double log in. Heather, double log in. Luz is under a bridge. Let's see, who else? All right, guys, make sure your cameras are on. Those of you that need to have the hours accounted for. I don't know if I should answer Carlos right now, but so Gil says property taxes are specific general. Gil, type that again, man. Carlos asked if this is a terrorist lien. Why? Because it affects everything you got? It's the bomb, I know. So, yeah, child support, federal unpaid federal taxes attaches to everything you have. Judgments. Yeah, so general lien is goes against all three properties, all your assets, everything. Yep. No, Gary, so in my example, these three properties are owned by an individual, just like the car, the checking account. This is all from one individual. So it could affect everything you own, or if it's a specific lien, only one particular property. So if you stop paying your mortgage on property A, right, make sure property A is the property that gives you the least profit if you're going to do it, right? Because they cannot come after property B or property C. All right. And obviously, I'm joking. Don't stop paying anything. It's not trying to give an incentive. All right. Next. So here's examples right here. Examples of specific liens. You have that in your book. So specific, we have special assessment and ad valorem taxes, which I'll talk about in Chapter 8 tomorrow. Mortgage lien, you guys already know. Construction, I already explained more or less. Vendor's lien and utility liens, that's obviously the common sense. But these are specific against the property, okay? So that's some service was performed on the property or was specifically against the property. That's why they're specific liens. General liens, like I said, judgment, estate tax, inheritance taxes, deceased person taxes, so on, they affect real property and personal property. So they affect everything that you guys own. Okay, and by now you guys already know what's real and what's personal property. Real property, real estate. Personal property, anything that's movable. Okay, or not permanently affixed. Documents included. Construction liens, we're getting there. All right, next page. I'll address Emily, I'll address that in a second, okay? So next page, we got effects of lien on title. So how does a lien affect your property, right? What happens to the property that has a lien? Look, because a lien is a claim, right? A financial claim in this case. Because it's a claim, then the property is not worth as much with a lien. Would you pay $300,000 for a property that has $250,000 mortgage on it? Right? Maybe you will because you're going to take over. Maybe there's not enough there, and that's why. Let me explain this differently. I'm sorry. Let's say you're the agent for the seller, right? The property has a mortgage of $250,000, right? It's worth $300,000. You need to understand that when you sell the property, what we need to do is pay off the mortgage, right? We sell it for $300,000, we need to pay off the mortgage. But $300,000, we got to take our commission. So let's say 6%, it's $18,000. So $300,000 minus $18,000, minus closing costs, minus other fees, and so on. Do we get to pay off the mortgage? Probably. But how much money is going to go to the seller's pocket? You guys understand? So we might have to sell it for a higher price. But guess what? The property is not worth higher price. So the fact that it has a $250,000 mortgage makes it difficult to sell. If it was a $50,000 mortgage, there's enough money for everybody to eat. The seller, the realtor, and obviously the fees that need to be paid. You got it? So that's what it is. So it affects the sellability of the property at whatever value. Okay? Because if I have no mortgage, can I sell the property tomorrow? Sure. If I have a mortgage, well, let's be conscious that I need to pay off the mortgage. Now, if a buyer is willing to take over the mortgage, that's a different story. That's what it says. Willing to take the encumbrances along with the property. I'm buying knowing that there's a mortgage there. And we'll talk better about this in chapter 13. Now, encumbrances or clouds are liens and other kinds, like physical and usage, which we'll talk about in a second. They run with the land. What does that mean? It means that if the property owner leaves the property and there's a new owner, the new owner is not the one responsible for it. Okay? The old owner is. But the lien is still against the property. So it doesn't matter who the owner is, liens stick to the property. Okay? Except, but if it's a lien, if it's financial and there's a foreclosure, right, then they do not survive the sale. What does that mean? You owe $250,000. But there's a second mortgage that nobody knew about of $100,000. You're not paying either one of them and it goes through foreclosure. If there's not enough money to satisfy the mortgages, right, the second mortgage gets erased off the property. Now, we're talking about a lien getting erased. We're not talking about the obligation of paying it. We're talking about a lien. Because liens, they attach to the property, not to the property owner. Whoever buys the property at auction, and again, chapter 13 will go more in detail, whoever buys the property at auction usually is buying free of liens, right? The person that lost the house might still owe money. But you as a buyer of a house, as an investor in this type of house in the foreclosure, right? You're buying it free of any liens except for property taxes and special assessments, which you still have to pay on top of the bidding price. Okay, so you bid $300,000 for it. There's $50,000 worth of unpaid taxes, water bills, and whatever. You, the investor, are still responsible for it. Okay? Now, again, the $100,000 mortgage disappears for you, the buyer. For the one that lost the property, he still has an obligation to pay that money. You guys understand? It's the same thing as your car. If you don't pay your car, they repo, right? I'm pretty sure it's an easier concept. A lot of you have heard these stories probably, or even been through it, because it happens, life happens, right? So let's say somebody repos your car. What the bank's going to try to do is sell your car at auction. And whatever the difference is, they come after you personally. Now, you don't have the car anymore, but you still have to pay that bill. Do you understand? So it's the same thing for a house. The new owner of the car or the house in this scenario does not have to pay for it if it's a foreclosure, right? But the bank can still come after the previous owner for monies. Okay. So Daphne, that's what I was explaining. The liens. Sorry, there's motorcycles going through. So that's what I was explaining. Liens, they run with the land. That means they're. Heather is accelerating there. So liens are attached to the property. There's two documents, guys. I'll explain better in mortgages, but there's two documents. There's something called mortgage, which equals lien, and there's something called promissory note or promise to pay, which is the loan. Okay? So there's two documents with each property. If there's financing, there's a mortgage, and there's a promissory note. The mortgage is the lien. It stays with the property. Okay? So I can sell the property, I can sell the property to somebody that's willing to take over the payments. But if they don't, the bank will enforce the mortgage as if I was still the original owner. So they come and take the property away, even though it's somebody else, right? The promissory note says, I owe money to Bank of America, so Bank of America can come after me for whatever they don't recover when they auction the property. So run with the land means it's attached to the property, doesn't matter who the owner is. Another example, real estate taxes. The real estate taxes, they are perpetual liens, as we'll talk about tomorrow. They're perpetual liens. That means they're always going to be there. Doesn't matter who owns the property, they need to be paid. They run with the land. They're attached to the land. Did you get it? Guys, let me know if you got it. Give me a thumbs up if you got it. All right. Daphne, you got it? Or you're asking a question? Okay. Question coming through. All right, all right. Make sure you keep your cameras on. Make sure you're participating. Make sure you're here. Please. Okay. So Daphne is asking, does the new owner get stuck with paying the lien? Well, that's the thing. If you don't pay the lien, they'll foreclose on the property if you don't pay, right? So have you ever heard, Daphne, have you ever heard when people say, hey, take over my car payments, like, or my car lease, just here's the car, take over, right? It's the same thing. I will pay for you, right? And I get to keep the car. I'll pay for you. But if I stop paying, don't I lose the car? Right? I'm the new owner, but don't I lose the car if I stop paying? It's the same thing. The obligation started with the previous owner. They transferred it to me. If I don't pay, I lose it. Okay? Even though the obligation, again, was from the previous owner. Why would somebody buy a house with a lien? Most of the time, sellability. But I'll give you my example. When the market crashed, I had a loan modification company, and I was helping people at one point through attorneys because the law had changed, so it had to be through attorneys. Instead of letting them go through foreclosure, I would help the homeowner by saying, hey, I'll take over. I mean, it made sense to me. You're going through a hard time, right? They're the ones that offer that, knowing that we were in that field as investors and as a loan modification, we come a lot of these opportunities. So they would ask, can I just want to sell the property? So why would I put on the market for somebody else? I would take over, as an example, right? So they approached me. I would take over the property. I'll give them some money, right? Which is called consideration. We'll talk about this in chapter 11. And I take over the mortgage payments. Now, as a buyer, why would I do it? Again, you have a good interest rate. You have good low monthly payments. To me, it makes sense. And I don't have to get approved by a mortgage company. I'm just taking over. All right? It's called buying subject to existing liens. You got it? But again, we'll talk about this better in chapter 13, which is mortgages. Okay? It's a short chapter, but because of all these technicalities, I take the whole 3.5 hours to explain it. All right? Because I want to make sure you guys understand these things. Where would be any profits, asks Peter. Where would be any profit if you buy a house and sell it after a year if the price goes up? Would there be any profit? That's a given. Absolutely. There's definitely a profit if you sell it. Assuming I still haven't finished paying off my mortgage. All right. So, guys, understand this. When we come to this type of negotiation, just like everything else, don't buy a $9,000 patch of land. What I'm trying to say is do your due diligence. Figure out how much is the unpaid balance of that mortgage. Figure out if there's other mortgages. Because Peter is asking me, if I buy today and I sell a year from now, would there be any profit? Well, it depends. If you buy it with a mortgage that's $200,000 and then you take over, but you sell a property for $300,000 or $400,000 or $500,000, there's profit, right? because it pays off the $200,000. It pays off taxes and other liens that are pending, right? And you still walk away with money. So it depends, right? As an example, a takeover, let's call it takeover right now, that I did on a property close by, I made $168,000. I bought it. During the time we were in negotiations with the company, with the bank, the seller sold it to me, right? And by the time we were done with the loan modification at the time, they forgave, because there was a program at the time going on, they forgave almost $300,000 on the mortgage. So when we went to do the payoff for the sale, we only owed $100 and something thousand. I sold it for $460 after paying a few of the things that were there, plus obviously paying what I put in. My profit was, between me and my partner, obviously, was $168,000. So we walked away with $83,000, $84,000 each. Do you understand? So is there profit? Yeah. But again, this is for chapter 13, but I need to say something right now because I see some of you already, the numbers are running. You know when the eyes turn into the dollar signs, like they're flipping? All right. Do not do this. Do not do what I did until you hear what I have to say in chapter 13. Not now. Okay? Because a lot of people were committing fraud doing this. I'll teach you how to do it the right way. Chapter 13. Okay? All right. Daphne, what about if the lien is high, over $100,000? A mortgage traditionally is more than $100,000. It's the same thing. All right, so the concept is exactly the same. But we'll go over these things again in a different chapter, okay? Right now, just understand. Sorry. Right now, just understand this. A lien always affects the property, because it cannot be sold unless the balance is zero or unless the buyer is willing to take over the lien. That's what we're saying. Okay? Now there's something else called priority of liens. Priority means who's prior, meaning who's first when it comes to a foreclosure. Who gets paid first? So everything we've been talking about right now is right here. Some stuff gets wiped out. Some stuff stays no matter what, which is real estate taxes. See, the priority of a lien, right, is determines the order in which the debts will be paid off in case of a foreclosure. Real estate taxes and special assessments take priority over all other liens. Real estate taxes and special assessments, which we'll talk about tomorrow, they take over all other liens. So they're first always. So if the state exam has a question that says, let's say, it says, which one of these would have priority? And then they give you 4 answers. One of them is a mortgage from 3 years ago. The other one is a mortgage from 2 years ago. The other one is a construction lien from today, right? But the other option, it says current real estate property taxes. Current. For a lot of you, when you see the word current, you think, well, if it's current, then we don't have to pay. It's on time. No. Current property taxes means there's an outstanding bill. It means it's the most recent unpaid taxes. There's a bill that needs to be paid. Priority, remember, priority is always, always, always taxes first. Okay? Everything else is determined by date of recording. By date of recording. Where? In public records. So when it's recorded, it creates priority. So if I get to public records, let's say I'm Bank of America, I get to public records today, and I register today, and there's nothing else there, right? Then I'm the first one here. I have priority. If tomorrow you get a second mortgage with Chase, right? And Chase records tomorrow, then they're a secondary lien. They're second in position. You guys got it? So the priority is established by date. So let's go here. Right on top. This is 1024 First Street, Anytown, USA, right? And when we pull public records, when we do a title search, this is what's going to show. Something established on October 14th of 1993. Something established on February 17th of 1994. And then there's something established on March 1st of 1995. All right? So what we're saying here is simple. First, second, third, right? That's the order that they're recorded. So guys, let me know in the chat. If there's a foreclosure, who gets paid first? If there's a foreclosure, who gets paid first? I'm not even going to make comments. I'm just watching. Okay? I'll let you know in a second. I guess some of you were not listening, were you? No, some of you are right. Heather, some of you are right. You ready? It's very simple. Right here. Peter got it. The majority of you got it. But taxes. Always taxes. Who gets paid first? I tricked you, right? I know I did. I tricked you because I pointed here. I said, who gets paid first, right? I pointed here. I tricked you. I know. I'm sorry. I'm a bad person. But in state exam, I just told you, taxes are always first, no matter what. Who gets paid first? Taxes. Who gets paid second? Now it would be 1993. Then it would be 1994. Then it would be 1995. But who gets paid first? Always taxes. Joseph, I appreciate it. The real estate broker would be great. But we're talking about foreclosure. We don't participate in foreclosures. Okay? But taxes. Taxes. Wait. Let me go back here. Peter says taxes. Always take a big note on your notebook, wherever it is you're taking notes. Taxes. Then you look at dates. You guys got it? Give me a thumbs up if we got it. Great. All right. So we're supposed to do chapter 7 today, but we're not going to do it. So I'm just going to finish this section, and then we're going to break and give the second part. And by the way, just so you guys know, we will not be late on anything. I have plenty of days built in for us to go over these things. But like I said earlier, this is one of the chapters. This one and the next one is one of the chapters everybody gets confused. So I'll do chapter 7 tomorrow along with chapter 8, which is taxes, a shorter chapter. But today we're just going to finish this section, a quick break, and then we'll come back for the second part, okay? So let's see what we got. So priority of liens. As far as Heather, what happened? But you said taxes always come first? Oh, the chapter tomorrow? Good one, good one. Yeah, okay, then you wrote it after. I got you. You hear the motorcycle, you just want to get out, huh? All right, so mortgage liens, guys, we're already covered. A mortgage lien is because you have unpaid mortgage loan, so they put a lien against your property. Construction lien, as you guys might have guessed, is because you haven't paid construction. So they put a judgment against you, and that judgment then is recorded as a lien. What you need to remember, guys, is that construction liens are unique. Why are they unique? Because they are retroactive to the date when the work originally began or when materials were delivered. So what are we saying? A lawsuit takes a long time, right? So let's say the construction company puts a lawsuit today. It takes roughly 3 years, let's say, for a lawsuit on average to complete. So 3 years later, I get a judgment. Congratulations, you can now go collect because you got a judgment. What if the house was sold in between? Can you collect on that judgment? Probably not. So that's why when you get a lien, any type of lawsuit, we're going to talk about this in a second, you have to file a notice in public records that says, hey, buyer, beware, there's a lawsuit going on. All right? So that's why every time you file a foreclosure, any lawsuit that could affect the property, you should file what's called a lis pendens. But we'll get there. Now, the difference is, let me go here. The difference is we have this 1994 mortgage. Then somewhere in 1995, we did some construction work. It's not a lien. I'm just giving you a sequence of events, okay? So we have a mortgage, then we did construction work. Now, because of that construction work, your property went up in value. Because it went up in value, guess what? In 1996, you got a second mortgage because it's now worth more. So you took more money out, okay? But you left this unpaid. Your property is worth because the construction is done, but you left it unpaid. What can the construction company do? They can take you to court. The problem with court, as I was saying, is that it takes a lot of years. So by 1998, so 3 years later, you get a judgment. Okay? A judgment saying, hey, you have to pay, right? But the judgment now becomes a lien. Remember, 1995 was not a lien. It was just construction work. All right? So if we're going to look at it in a different table, let's look at it here. Actually, on this side. If we look at a different table, the only thing we have on public records is 1994. We have 1996. And then the judgment in 1998. So first, mortgage. Second, mortgage. And judgment. Okay? So if we're looking at this, right guys? If we're looking at this, because this is public records. This was a timeline of what happened, but this is what's on public records. So question. In this case, who gets paid first? Let me know. In this case, who gets paid first if there's a foreclosure? Got you again. Two times, same question in 5 minutes? Wow. I'm evil, aren't I? Taxes. Guys, taxes are always first. Did I tell you that in the state exam, there might be question number 2 that talks about this, and then question number 18 or 80 or 100 is the same question, just worded differently? Same thing happens in the state exam. I'm trying to do the same thing to you now, guys. Who gets paid first in the event of foreclosure? Always taxes. Taxes are not recorded in public records and don't have to be recorded because they're perpetual liens. They're always there. The pesky taxes don't go away. Always. Just like the question I just made. Never goes away. All right? Now, let's look at it again. taxes get paid first. Great. Who gets paid second? Okay? So we already got the taxes first. Who gets paid second? The first mortgage. Absolutely. So second, first mortgage gets paid. Who gets paid third if there's enough money in the foreclosure? Who gets paid third? It's not what's recorded next. It's the unpaid construction. Slides right here, and it becomes the third. Because a judgment is retroactive. Judgment is retroactive to when the work was done. And then fourth and final will be the second mortgage if there's enough money. All right? So remember, this was the timeline of events. They bought the house, they got a first mortgage. A year later, they got construction done to the house, right? A year after that, they got a second mortgage. And then because they did not pay, a few years later, there was a judgment against the property. In public records, we only saw these. In public records, this is all you see. But because this judgment is based on the construction, it's the construction lien. Because it's based on the construction lien, then it takes over, even though it's a later event, right? It's 1998. This judgment, it's only, guys, so to address Ritu, only construction liens are retroactive, only. And they're retroactive to when the work was done, when it began in 1995, or when material was first delivered. It's the only one that has this feature. Okay? So again, this was the timeline, and that was the actual public records. Any questions, or we're good? All right. How does the second mortgage work? We'll talk about that in mortgages, but it's just taking more money if there's equity. That's all it is. An additional lending that you got against, or borrowing that you got against the property. Okay? Now, judgments. A judgment is a decree or a court decision. It's a decree or a decision issued by a judge, or obviously a court, right? So judgment is a decision or decree. If you see the word decree, it's, again, determination or decision by a judge. That's all it is, okay? And then we're going to go to the next page, and that's where we're going to take our break. Because if you got confused so far, then it's going to get way better. Don't look at me like that. All right, so lis pendens. All right. Remember I said that lawsuits take a long time, right? I said that, right? And I said if you don't put a notice in public record saying, hey, there's a lawsuit, right? If you don't put a notice, then the house could be sold, and then it's very difficult for the person that was suing to collect the money on the lawsuit, right? Because there's no assets. A lis pendens is that notice of lawsuit pending. Okay? Lis pendens is a notice of lawsuit pending. This is not a lien. It's just a notice, because a lien is when we get the judgment. Until then, it's not a lien, right? It's still a cloud, it's still an encumbrance, but it's not a lien. Okay? It's a notice of lawsuit pending. That's what lis means. Lis, lawsuit. Pendens, obvious, pending. Okay? Crystal, the house is not sold under a lis pendens. The house could be sold with a lis pendens. Again, lis pendens is just a notice in public records, that's all. Can you buy a house that has a lis pendens, that has a foreclosure, that has a bunch of judgments? You can. If you either a fool or if you're good enough to negotiate with those lien holders. So it's one or the other. All right? And I'm sorry, not trying to attack anybody because I was a fool at one point. Now I know how to negotiate with lien holders. You don't have to accept all the liens. You can call them up and say, hey, let's negotiate something. I'll give you something now versus foreclosure later. All right? So it's a negotiation. Just like your collection companies. If somebody collects on you for medical bills or for the electrical bill or T-Mobile or Verizon or whatever, if it's a collection company, they bought it for cheap. So guess what? Negotiate. Don't pay it. Negotiate. And before you negotiate, dispute, always. Don't assume that they actually can collect on that bill. All right. Crystal, who becomes responsible for the judgment? Again, obligations are always of the person that made the contract. If you purchase a property with a lis pendens, that means there's a lawsuit pending. What could happen to you is that you lose the house. You're not obligated to pay the lien, but if you don't, you lose the house. Catch 22. Negotiate. Ritu, does a suit being filed automatically creates a lis pendens? No. And that's exactly what I was going to say. Right here, in green. A lis pendens is a notice. Why? Because when we file a lawsuit, great question, Ritu, by the way. Because when you file a lawsuit, you file right here in court. So this is court, okay? Over here is public records or land records, right here. All right? So we have two places where things are filed. One is for lawsuits, court. The other one is everything that goes against the property, public records, right? So when you file a lawsuit in court, you have to take a lis pendens, which is a document that says, hey, there's a lawsuit pending over there, right? You bring it to public records and you file it there. Okay, so it's not automatic. If you don't file it, then it doesn't exist. And the house gets sold with something pending in court. You guys got it? So you have to file a lis pendens to let the world know, that's what we have here, to let the world know, to give notice to all interested parties that there's a lawsuit that could affect your ownership. So a lis pendens creates a cloud on the title until the lawsuit is settled. You got it? So two separate locations, two separate documents. One is the actual lawsuit. The other one is notice of a lawsuit pending over there. Okay, it's to protect all buyers. Daphne, how does a buyer know that the property has a lis pendens? It's called a title search. Thank you, Heather. It's called a title search. You shouldn't buy anything without doing a title search, without figuring out what's attached to the property, what type of obligations. They're not your obligations, but it could affect your ownership because they can take the property away from you. You guys got it? Give me a thumbs up if we're good. Gil, that's chapter 21. But yes, abstract of title, title search, all that good stuff. Yep. All right, you guys good? Let's go for a break. Refresh. All right. So 8 o'clock, we're back. 7:53 right now. 8 o'clock, we're back. See you in a bit.